Welcome to the Trump Breaking News Network, your daily source for up-to-the-minute Trump news. Join us today and every day. Here's today's news.
This is TBNN.
Trump faces 3 hard political truths. The Trump Hotel in Washington is built inside the old post office building. Last time I visited the place, it was a tourist gallery, selling t-shirts, trinkets and ice cream. Now the tourist gallery has been transformed into a marble-clad, sparkly, luxury hotel. Instead of ice cream cones, there were cars with champagne on ice and a man behind me saying, "Now I just have to find summer jobs for my 2 sons." The president dined there last night, according to the Washington Post, whose proprietors rightly fear that democracy could die in Trumpian darkness. Naturally, the Post critic opined that the $54 steaks at the oh-so-boring BLT Prime steakhouse are overcooked and overpriced. But as my pro-Trump brother would remind me, what else are they going to say? Drinking an overpriced cup of coffee in this sunlit atrium, 4 blocks from the White House, is as good a place as any to ask 3 hard questions about the wobbling state of Donald Trump's union. Is the administrative state doomed? Video watch: 5 big blunders Donald Trump made in his first 30 days in office. The first question is raised by the morning edition of the Wall Street Journal, where right-wing stalwart Paul Jigget says, "Bannonism gets the headlines but can't deliver votes on Capitol Hill." Is that really true? Bannon, the Iago of the Trump White House, hopes Trump's faux State of the Union speech can jumpstart his audacious plan to deconstruct the administrative state that has arisen in Washington over the last century. Bannon is moving his various White House chess pieces, King Donald, Queen Imka and a whole lot of pawns, to advance this goal. Trump will provide some details tonight. Will the Congress go along with what he proposes? Bannon's agenda is radical but familiar, not unlike the one President Ronald Reagan brought to Washington in 1981. Then as now, the Heritage Foundation provided the policy playbook for those who want to privatize the government and seize taxpayer rents on behalf of well-connected business interests. Some people liken it to a swamp. Now that a Democrat no longer occupies 1,600 Pennsylvania, the Capitol's taboo on deficit spending is defunct, at least for the next 4 years. Trump will propose a $54 billion increase in the military budget and draconian cuts everywhere else. As a Republican Congress is unlikely to raise taxes, the deficit will grow. Only deficit hawks and Wall Street Democrats, 2 notably lame groupings, are likely to object. The big money prize for the Heritage Foundation and Washington's moneyed interests is Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. The Trump/Bannon/Ryan regime has not targeted these entitlements, not yet. The White House knows full well that when just re-elected President Bush made a run at privatizing Social Security in 2005, he was quickly shot down, even though the Republicans controlled Capitol Hill. And Bush, amazing to say, was a lot more popular than Trump. Of course, the Trump-Bannon junta could prevail. The Democratic Party was stronger under Bush II and Reagan than it is today. In the 1980s, a liberal bloc led by House Speaker Tip O'Neill controlled the House of Representatives. Reagan, a right-wing ideologue, had to negotiate with him if he wanted to get anything done. And so he did. Now that the Democrats are marginalized and demoralized, Trump need only issue orders to Ryan and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to get what he wants. But does that mean the odd philosophy of Bannonism can actually summon a congressional majority to deconstruct the modern administrative state? As the Washington Post's C.J. Dion recently wrote, "This is a war on a century's worth of work to keep our air and water clean, our food, drugs and workplaces safe, the rights of employees protected, and the marketplace fair and unrigged. It's one thing to make regulations more efficient and no more intrusive than necessary. It's another to say that all the structures of democratic government designed to protect our citizens from the abuses of concentrated private power should be swept away." The novelty of Trump's Washington can be overestimated. President Reagan also came to office seeking to vanquish a decadent liberal bureaucracy on behalf of freedom-loving Americans. He stayed for a massive expansion of deficit spending and no great diminution of the size of government as measured by percentage of gross national product. Washington has a way of foiling revolutionaries. Anne Gorsuch, the mother of would-be Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, was the Scott Pruitt of her day, an EPA administrator who was going to dismantle the agency on behalf of free enterprise. Gorsuch did a lot of damage, but in the long run she failed. The EPA went on to implement bipartisan policies under Presidents Bush, Clinton, Bush II, and Obama. These policies offended some business interests, and some believe they over-regulated at times. But there is no doubt that EPA protected the country's air, water, land, natural resources and wildlife, and it did so in ways that even conservative Republicans learned to accept. Can Bannon, Trump, Ryan and McConnell roll back the 20th century administrative state? The answer is maybe, if they don't get a powerful pushback from civil society. The Watergate question. A second question wafting in the air of the lobby of the Trump Hotel on the eve of Trump's Sata comes from Joe Conason: is this Watergate yet? The question likens Trump's growing legal and political problems to the early 70s scandal that forced Richard Nixon from office. It is a shorthand way of asking a more complicated question: do the law enforcement and intelligence agencies of the U.S. government have sufficient evidence for criminal prosecution of Trump administration figures for their dealings with Russia?
That's the news. Join us here every day. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell. See you next time.
This is TBNN.